But let's go to the treasure room. We didn't get anything for the final treasure. So what is this all about? Well, apparently you don't get anything for the treasures, because this thing opens at 6 treasures or something like that. And you have access. Nothing has changed. We still get our cryptic stuff going on here. So what is this about? Now that we know, or in theory now we would have translated the entire manual, of course. And this is the only hint that we have about this chamber. For additional support and secrets. I find that a little bit misleading because we don't get additional support, we get additional secrets. But what this says is, number 1, find some rare golden statues. Number 2, traverse the glow to visit 12 strange beings. We did that. We have found some rare golden statues. I think 6 is required. Then we traverse the glow to visit these Cthulhu-like creatures, RGB tentacle things. And then number 3, and it's in quotation marks, unsing to them the greatest song, the song of the golden path, as seen from within. So it is obvious that we have to input a code here with the D-pad, and apparently it's the golden path code. And they want us to unsing it. And in addition to that, as seen from within. So what could that mean? Unsing, I think unsing is somewhat comprehensible. We started here. If you consider that a spell, I mean, the fairy seeking spell is called a spell. Now they suddenly call it a song as well. So if we assume this is a song or a spell, and we start here, then unsinging it would be doing it maybe in reverse. We start at the center and go backwards. But apparently that's not it. And I also had to look that up, because here again it gets tricky in my opinion, because what does from within mean? It's again something, yeah, semantics. You could argue what from within means. You could say, okay, I place myself on this tile on 55 and I look down to the entrance. In this case I would be looking up, and that would reverse the golden path, meaning it would I would start with up, and then I would go left and up again. But that's also not it. Because what you need to do here is, and what they mean by from within, they want you to flip the whole thing. They want you to look at it from this side of the page. So you don't rotate it 180 degrees, you just flip it around the horizontal axis, if you will. So that way the down and ups do not change, only the left and right changes. And in addition to that, we start from 55 and then move outward. So we would go down, and instead of right, we would go left and down again, then right, right, down, left, and so on. Now, I could do that now here, but what you will get if you do that, you won't unlock anything, you won't get a message or a prompt that shows up. You will just get some random message that pops up. These letters will still be the same, and you will have to write them down and translate them as well. And here it gets interesting, because now we are leaving the game. Because what you get is a link to a website. And that website is called Do You Fear the Eyes of the Far Shore .co. And that will lead you to a website that only contains a video and an audio. And it's a video of one of these tentacle creatures, glowing with its RGB eyes and waving its dark matter tentacles. And it also plays a sound in the background. Now, this is also something I had to look up, because here, these are things where it gets vague and you have to, it's hard to know what you are supposed to do. It's time intensive, it requires brute forcing in a way to just want to find more secrets at this point. Because if you get to this point, you just see the website, you hear the creepy sound. It's not a message, it's just a sound that is playing. And you can download the video, you can download the audio file separately. The video is called just V, I think, and the audio file is just called A. Well, here it depends on your browser. I had struggled downloading the audio file. I could download the video. The video does not have any sound. The audio is separate. Depends on your browser, I think, but you can download the video and audio separately. And according to guides I read, the audio is supposed to contain a comment in the metadata that just thanks you for playing. I cannot confirm that. In my downloaded audio, there is no comment thanking me for playing, so I don't know what's up with that, if I downloaded it wrongly or not. Here I have to chime in from the future, because the message does indeed show up, but only if I have my operating system set to English. I previously had it set to German, and there, for whatever reason, in the metadata, the thank you comment does not show up. But when I switch to English, then it is being displayed. So maybe that's just a specific thing of Windows, how it displays language specific metadata, but I can confirm it is indeed there. But that's not the end of it still. And I wouldn't have figured that out, or I'm not sure if I would have gone that far. Because if you continue to analyze not the video, but somebody unanalyzed the audio file. How do you analyze the audio file? Well, we had one example where audio was turned into meaning, into directions, and that was the old house audio puzzle. Remember that one? And here we got a translation of what different notes can mean. And if you listen to that audio sound, you hear there is a certain pattern to it. And if you look at it in an audio program, you also see that it is sectioned off into different areas, and it plays different pitches of tones. So you can get suspicious that there is a message in that. And yes, there is a message in that sound file. And the person that is always credited is called a streamer named Angryvol. So I'm doing that as well, because I didn't figure that out. But what do you do with that information? I mean, you have apparently, now you know that there is a message in the audio file. But how do you translate that? Because for translating this language, you could try to brute force it. If nothing in this manual was in English, you could try to brute force it somewhere with meaning and... Well, if you had only the text without any context, without any images and whatnot, it would be really difficult, but you could try to brute force it. But since we have some kind of translation table or a Rosetta Stone with this one that tells us all the characters. For example, we learn here that there is never a none of these characters ever have a outer right vertical line, because that would be confusing if they are stuck together like that. If you have one of these outer vertical lines, you always know it's a left one. And then with the other stuff, we were able to translate that. But of course, with sound, you can't apply that. Sound would be encoded differently. So you need a new Rosetta Stone for that. And apparently this audio file is meant to be that, some kind of a Rosetta Stone. And I'm not a musician, I'm not an audio expert, but what I could do, I could throw the whole audio file into an audio program and analyze the spectrum. And that's what this streamer that is credited also did. And I tried to replicate that and see if I can see the same thing. And yes, you can. It depends on your program, because the spectrum shows you the frequency of the whole file, and sounds are just made of frequencies, like air swinging at a certain speed, and that is measured in hertz. And the spectrum shows you which frequencies appear. And the most curious thing is that at a certain range of hertz, there is actual images appearing of the letters that we know in the spectrum. I don't know how they did that, but I can confirm it. And in the audio file, you have segments, and for each segment there is a symbol, and with that you can translate each segment to a certain meaning and then go on from that. And people actually deciphered the audio Tunic language as well, in addition to the manual written language, and that spawned a whole new array of, or pool of messages, because apparently lots of audio that is playing in the game also has messages, or is encrypted messages, like the chest that we just opened that played a tune, it played various pitches of sounds, of tones, or the seeking spell, it plays certain tones, pitches, and they all, apparently, the people or the guy that did that went through the effort trying to, or creating a encrypted or a language made of sounds, like where it works in a way that you have to analyze which tone it is playing and if it is descending or ascending or descending, and then from that you can decipher or attribute certain vowels and consonants to a set of pitches. And then you can go through the entire game again and analyze that. And people did that, and there are apparently much more messages in the game that go into the lore of everything. What I found, or what interested me the most, is the beginning of all of this, of course. What the introduction told you about all of this. And I can read that to you. It's not super clear. It's a little bit cryptic. But it at least explains maybe a few things. So here we go. They lived a civilization of great power. They built a city, and within that city they built a palace. They held sacred the secrets of the Holy Cross, and understood the plainer nature of reality. They ventured to the far shore and sought power from the spaces between. As is usual, an alluring old power was discovered. Fossils of self-annealed visions of the future, entombed and cast into sarcophagi, and buried, a lever in the canonical plane, store of potential. Perhaps it is the fabled prize, the power to defy death. A terrible power rises. The discovering hero opened a tomb and revealed a terrible truth. A cathedral once built to venerate this new origin of life, and the faithful were granted the grace of holy oblivion. The world is thrown into ruin. The lever overworked, the fulcrum shattered, a hole in the truth will thunder open, and all manner of disquiet contradictions will gnaw apart the canonical plane. The thread is snagged into a squirming coil with no beginning and no end. Flee to your arcs, old ones, and become your predestined selves. And here we continue. A prison and a beacon, but one must live outside the shivering ring. The air seeking an heir to the air, a beacon to bring about a ruined seeker, to either grow strong and replace the ailing air, or to hold the sacred cross, the holy cross, and ensure their wisdom lives on. Awaiting a worthy successor, which will you be, ruin seeker? Have you arrived here seeking treasure and glory, or do you seek to uncover deeper truths? Look carefully, for the golden path lies everywhere. And then here we have the canonical plane and the far shore. The far shore apparently is the ghost world that we have seen, and the canonical plane is the real world, you could say. So apparently what happened here, roughly summarized, is they sought power, digged too deep, uncovered the Cthulhu monster, and then all hell broke loose. Apparently they had to seal the air, but the air, I'm not sure, is luring in new heroes or potential heroes, and they will either vanish because they are not strong enough to become the heir of the air, or they will be the successor, or in ending B, share the wisdom. Because what we have here is the explanation of how the, well, somewhat reality works. We have the normal way of life. Offerings to the air give power in the corporal realm. Then as a ghost form or in the far shore existence, you are a shadow of yourself, and the false gifts of the air have no effect. So apparently, if we sacrifice or give stuff to the air, this is not a real upgrade, because we don't have it in the far shore anymore. And this one is the hero status, with the hero relic attuned to a true memory of yourself instead of a pale retelling. So if we go back to this, again the same battle fought countless times. And so the cycle continues. Rune seekers drawn to the beacon are tested. Those who abandon their quest are forgiven and simply disappear and become maybe these echoes of selves that we see in the swamp. Those who are strong enough to remember their true hero selves will, through violence, begin the cycle new. That's ending A. Will you be the heir to the air and wait within the shadow oublié? That's a prison. Before long, a rune seeker will be drawn to you. Their gifts will recall your past life, and you will grant them the same false hope you were given. To break the curse, a rune seeker must, by some miracle, invoke a relic from beyond this plane. So it's all about the ending A or B. Did you become a hero and also go the golden path and share the entire manual? Because here it explains your relationship to the air. Here it says in gold, risk an offering to the air. As the shore bleeds one of the falsehoods and memories, the air hungers for reminders of the corporal world. Offer these mementos and share a delusion of power. So the power that we receive here apparently is not real, because the air only exists as a ghost and they want reminders of the real world. And then here it says, pilgrims to the shore are stripped of this false power. That's why we never have had these upgrades when we became a ghost. And apparently the librarian was just one seeker of knowledge of the manual, but he never went to the far shore, and he thought the Holy Cross was in the cathedral, and that's something I didn't get. But that's why there was no teleportation pad in the swamp, because the the librarian took that one that was ripped out and he brought it to the library to have access to the cathedral, maybe, because he thought the Holy Cross was in the cathedral, and apparently he didn't understand that it's not an item or something. So that is the extent of all of that. Of course, now there is a New Game Plus. We can have a short look at that. I played a little bit of that already. It's difficult how to end a game like this, where there's apparently so much more. Where there's apparently so much more to discover and to find. In the New Game Plus, you can keep upgrading, you find new stuff, and apparently it goes above 8. I'm not sure how much higher it will go, if there is a limit at all. You also see that I have much more potions now, because these apparently also go up. I'm not sure if it will ever reach a second row or just continue to the left. You will pick up items. I think menu pages you will not be able to pick up, they will just lie there. Fairies you will pick up again. Treasures you will pick up again. Any item here you will pick up, but it will tell you you already have one. Curiously, it did pick up the shield and now I have 2. I don't know what difference that does make. But it also makes things a lot harder, because the only thing that you don't have is the dash. All the other stuff you still have, especially the orb. So you can get around quite easily. But you still have to get all the 3 keys to free the air to even get to the ending. Or to get to one ending. So that is a must. All the other stuff, I think, would be optional. I'm not sure if you even need the hero Hero's Laurels to get to the ending B at this point. But you see, it's much harder now. They have placed various things on the map. But that's the challenge of the New Game Plus. You keep most of your stuff, you keep all of your upgrades. Only the dash you have to get again. But it's fun to keep upgrading and play it again. But yeah, that is Tunic. It's hard to end the game like this, where there's no real end, because the riddles continue. I wanted to give my final conclusion after I finished those last puzzles. And in a way, something happened that I feared, that it derailed a little bit at the end in terms of consistency, because that is, like I said, something that is important to me. Consistency, or being coherent to a certain logic. And I can understand that if you create a game you want to do that. Like I said, I did it myself. It was not part of anything, it was just self-contained. But I can understand that you want to hide stuff and hide messages. But what I would like to prefer is hide it in a way that doesn't feel like you are missing out on something. Like I'm not sure, but to me these golden treasures, they weren't that well hidden. It was rather obvious that it's a thing that you need to do. And having one of those, and only one, that is requiring you to go out of the way so much. I mean, learning the language, okay, but then the riddle itself is rather cryptic. And this last riddle, difficult from within. How it doesn't feel as elegant if it comes down to brute forcing it and guessing what they could have meant by that. So what I would prefer is those types of riddles that go off the rails from the typical stuff. I would hide them more, so that it's for the average player, they don't feel like, oh, I'm missing something and I can't figure it out and I have to look it up. Because every game, every puzzle game at least, they establish a logic or a way of thinking, and if you go and leave that entirely, then it starts to feel, well, artificial, or it just doesn't fit in anymore. It's like, I don't know, if you would play a Zelda game and they suddenly would require you to have knowledge of Star Trek or something, external knowledge, and suddenly a puzzler would make a reference and you would have to know something of, or you would need to know something about Super Mario or something. Zelda has, I think, never done that, and it would feel weird. And in this case, it was always self-contained. You didn't need to know anything about Outer Worlds stuff, and you didn't need to learn the language, and you certainly didn't need to interpret certain meanings of words. But that's just my opinion. Maybe it will change over time. It's still fresh, to be honest. But besides that, that was a little bit of a downer at the end. But besides that, I think still this game is special, and it will not just vanish for me. I'm willing to compare it to Outer Wilds, to be honest. After I played that game, I was looking for the heir to the heir, a worthy successor that was as inspirational as Outer Wilds was, or as awe-inspiring, and that was as much celebrating discovery and curiosity. And I struggled finding a game that was like that, and I think Tunic managed to do that. It is a different game, but it is on the same level of celebrating curiosity, celebrating mystery, and figuring out puzzles, mysteries, exploring a world, and experience that feeling of awe and wonder. And while the game in its final Glyph Tower puzzle focused more on these eyes of the far shore, these creatures, what I found the most interesting and inspiring going on was the relationship of the manual to the game. Like, are the characters in the game aware of the manual, or is it an external thing? Because there are aspects that speak for both these theories. You collect the pages in the game, you hand over the entire manual to the heir and share your knowledge. But then the document itself appears to be scanned, and there are handwritten notes that share knowledge that you couldn't have by just looking at the printed manual. So I wonder who wrote those notes. Is it previous players? Is it one player, several generations of players, or is it several generations of heroes in the game? And these are aspects that I would like to see explored in the future. So yeah, all in all, except for that last bit, I don't really have anything I could... Some people say they didn't like the combat. I think it was fine. I struggled with the very first boss, but none of these fights were like Dark Souls level of painful. Like, all the levels, all the areas, they were all rather shrunken down versions of Zelda dungeons or Dark Souls areas. Nothing was really, even if you struggled with a certain part, you could get through. It wouldn't require, I think, in my opinion, it wouldn't require you hours of grinding and retrying. So I was totally fine with that. And all the twists and riddles and the game suddenly turning into more like a witness game with all the environmental clues, I found that really refreshing. I think the main creator, Andrew, I'm not sure how to pronounce the last name here, they asked if this game is innovative. I'm not sure if I would call it innovative if you define innovative as new. But it's certainly special. Yeah, innovative would be new and original. It didn't really do stuff that was new, not necessarily. The way it did combine stuff was maybe new and original. I'm not sure if I would call it innovative, but that's not necessarily a bad thing. I think overall it's a really, really good game and a really nice experience. And it's really, really cute above all that. So it's difficult to end a game like this. There is no real end, because the search for clues and riddles continues. But for this, I want to tell you thank you for watching to this point. I hope you enjoyed it. Stay curious, always keep questioning and looking for answers. I think what this game taught us, in my opinion, is always look out for the entire story, the entire manual before you make your judgment. Stay curious, keep searching, and safe travels.